Have you ever set your RV up at a campsite and used your auto level function to get everything nice and perfect, only to go in and find that it's not so level? Today we're going to talk about fixing that, and can you run your leveling system with the slides out, and all sorts of tips and tricks for getting the most out of your auto leveling system and making sure it functions properly. This is RV Miles. Welcome back to RV Miles, everybody. I'm Jason. Thanks so much for being here. I've often out on the road talked to people who just absolutely hate their auto leveling system. And there's easy fixes for some of the common problems that a lot of people have with their auto leveling system. So today I'm going to run through a few of those so you're armed with the knowledge to fix those problems as they arise on the road. So the first thing that I want people to know off the bat is that auto leveling systems work best when the rig is already level. It makes sense, right? The auto leveling system doesn't have to do much if the rig is level. You do want to get your RV as level as possible, at least left to right when you pull it into the campsite. Today, we're mostly going to be talking about a fifth wheel. So we're here at the campsite with our Sabre 37 RV Miles fifth wheel, and it comes on a BAL frame with BAL electric leveling. So that's the system that I'm using here. I'm going to show you how to recalibrate it and a few little tips and tricks for that, but these are going to apply to other leveling systems as well. Just know that this is not a hydraulic system. So an electric system like this has a few different things on it that you might not be thinking about if you have a hydraulic system. So the first thing to note is getting into your campsite, making sure you're level left to right. Before you unhook, before you run your jacks, anything like that. So when I back into a campsite, I want to make sure that I'm close to level left and right. Does not need to be perfect, but if I'm close to level left and right, my leveling system is not going to try to raise my tires up on one side off the ground. And that's really important. I know a lot of people think it's not important. It is really important that your tires don't come off the ground. There are some high-end motorhomes that are okay with having the front wheels off the ground, whatever it might be, but on trailers, that's never the case. So you do want to make sure your rig is level left and right. So how do you do that? Well, you put some blocks under the low side. So back into your campsite, if it looks low on one side, put a leveling block under the tires on the low side. Usually I'll pull into a campsite, suss it out. If it looks pretty good, I won't worry about it. If it looks like it's leaning to one side or the other, then we'll figure out where we're going to put blocks. Or we might use something like this, a leveling ramp. So you pull up on one of these and you just keep backing up until your rig is close to level. How do you know you're close to level? Well, you can use a level. This is a cool product from a company called Franklin Sensors. So this is a traditional level that's got a level bubble in it. It also has a button on the back where you turn it on, and as you come close to level, it turns green. So once you're out of level, it's yellow. When it's close to level, it's yellow. And when you're out of level, it's red. But when it's green, it's level. And what's great about this is that it's also got a magnet on it. So I can take this and put it on right on my pin box, and I can watch as I'm backing the truck up to see if I'm close to level or not. If I'm in the yellow zone, I'm probably good enough for auto level. Say you're dry camping somewhere, you're boondocking, you want to be really close to level without having to unhook your rig. You can use something like this to see if you're close and try to get close. And what's nice about something like this is I can see it from in the truck, I can see it from any distance. So if I can leave it right there, and if I want to monkey with the auto level control panel while it's there, I can still see this from any direction because it just lights up when it's level, and that's really, really handy. Franklin Sensors, you can find it on Amazon at a link in the description. They make really good products, and this one has become really popular with RVers, travel trailer owners. This is real convenient for putting on the tongue of your RV. Again, just magnetize right to the tongue, any sort of metal surface. The way I like to level front to back is by putting a level in my doorway, and I'll show you that in a minute with this. So if I'm close to level left and right, then I know I can unhook my fifth wheel. And when I do that, the first thing that I'm going to do before I unhook anything is lower down these jack extensions. Now, if you have hydraulic leveling, you probably don't have jack extensions like this. A lot of people see these extensions on an RV lot and they think, oh, that rig doesn't have auto leveling. No, this is just an extension to help the motor get to where it needs to be without having to have a really long leveling jack. So what you do is you drop these guys into position as close as possible. I use a leveling block always of some sort. These are from Camco, but you can use whatever you like. You can stack up the Lego blocks. Don't stack them up too high because it can get kind of loosey-goosey, but it is nice to bring up the height of your leveling jack a little bit because there is a lot of play in these things. And if you can shorten the stroke of them, not only will the system work better, but you're gonna have less movement inside the rig. So what you wanna do is drop these close to the jacks as possible. If you're on an unlevel site, one might have to go lower than the other. A lot of people will count the holes and make sure that they're the exact same number of holes apart. That's not really the way to look at it. Before you start unhooking, you want to make sure that they are at the same distance away from the ground. So I might get my jack, 2 inches from the block on either side using this extension before I start unhooking, before I start using my auto leveling system to raise up my rig off of my hitch and then back the truck out. Another important thing to know about extensions like this is that if you're on a campsite that slopes backwards, so away from the front of the rig, it goes downhill towards the back, well, you're gonna need room when you auto level for the front end of your RV to come down. So in that case, I would have at least a good 6 inches probably of space for that jack to come down. So when it comes down, it pulls the weight off the truck. I pull the truck away, and then when the auto leveling system takes over, it can lower it back down. With virtually all trailers, most motorhomes, your slides should be in when you level. So you back your rig up, you unhook, you leave your slides in, then you run through the auto level process. Why? Well, if you're running your slides out when you're not leveled, the geometry of the hole that your slide is in can change. It's more about damage to the slides and the slide mechanisms than anything. The slides need to come out when the rig is level. Doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but the slides should be pretty close to level when you run them out. All right, so this is my auto leveling control panel right here. And auto leveling control panels usually have a voltage reading, and there's a reason for that. Low voltage can cause problems with your auto leveling system. It might not work, might not run. It will tell you low voltage, you can't run, or it'll just shut it off. But if you see your voltage fairly low, say down near 12 volts or so, your auto leveling system might have problems functioning properly. It might have problems making all the calculations it needs to know if you are perfectly level and which jacks it needs to run out. So one of the best things that you can do if you're having problems with your leveling system is have a good battery. A lot of people have just a junky battery in because they're always hooked up at the campground, so they don't worry too much about the battery. So they just have a junky battery, and it doesn't cause them problems in most situations. But it is good for a lot of reasons to have a good working battery in your unit. But another thing that you can do to make sure you're getting proper voltage is to plug your RV in before you start running your auto leveling system. That solves a lot of the problems right off the bat. Or you can leave your truck running and leave your trailer light cable plugged into your truck. All that sort of stuff can help. But we've got a pretty nice electrical system on our unit, so there's not a problem with low voltage on here at all. We do have a problem with the fact that our RV isn't quite level once I've run the auto leveling process. So I turn my leveling system on, I run the landing gear out, and I go through the auto leveling process, and then I go inside and we put all the slides out, and the slides can change how level your rig is a little bit, and everything's just not level. It's not level front to back, it's not level left to right. What can I do? Well, there's a manual mode on this system. So I can go in here and I can press manual mode. See, it shows me a little bubble level there, and I can extend or retract front, rear, left, or right. A lot of people get annoyed that you can't run one jack at a time. There's a reason for that. You could really damage things if you only ran one jack. So this is going to allow you to run 2 at a time. So I can run the 2 on the left side. This is a 4-point leveling system. The 2 on the right side, or the 2 in the front, or the 2 in the back at the same time. You shouldn't need to do anything other than that to get yourself level. But I can go in here and I can press extend and extend my front up, or I can extend the rear, whatever I need to do to get us close. Can you do that with your slides out? Absolutely. It's not going to affect things if you have your slides out and you make these small little adjustments. What you don't want to do is make adjustments if you've got these sorts of things. These are X-chocks that go in between your wheels. And you don't want to make adjustments with your stairs down. You want to have your stairs up when you make any adjustments. Because think about it, if you got solid step stairs that go all the way to the ground and you lower that side, it can actually push them into the ground. They can get stuck on rocks or whatever, and it can actually rip them right out. All right, so I'm going to close up my front stairs so that I can make adjustments to my level. And what I like to do is actually use a level at the doorway, because this is one of the places where you have problems when you're out of level. The geometry of your doorway changes and your door doesn't close very well. So I actually think this is a really good spot to check the level. I don't like using countertops. A lot of people prefer to use a countertop. I don't find the countertops to be particularly level in most RVs, and I think the best thing to go off of is the floor. So I'm going to use the floor right here, and as you can see, we are in the yellow mode, close to green, but if I leave it there, I'm in the yellow mode. So I'm going to go make adjustments until that turns green for me. All right, now that we've leveled front to back, I'm going to level left to right. In order to do that, I'm going to put the level on the floor running this direction. So there we go. We can see we're yellow again, so we're close. And I can look at the bubble level and realize I need to raise up the passenger side. So I'm going to go raise up the passenger side. Okay, back here out at the control panel, now that I'm leveled out perfectly, just like I like it, you don't have to go completely by the level either. Go, if it doesn't feel quite right to you in a certain area, your rig might not be true front to back and left to right, just as built by the manufacturer. So you can, even beyond using a level, go in and make other micro adjustments until it's just how you like it. But it's a pain in the butt to do that every time you set up your rig, right? Well, you can just calibrate your system once you've got it how you like it, and then every time you park, it will set it back up just how it was. So what I'm going to do here is in my leveling system panel, and this is going to be different from different brands. So with the BAL system, so I'm going to hold the voltage display until it becomes a keypad, and then I enter 3, 7, 5, 9. And it gets me into a mode where I can recalibrate the auto leveling system. What's important to know here is there are no safeguards now. So when you normally use the manual mode and you can raise one side, lower one side, it's going to stop when it thinks you're doing something dangerous that could twist your frame out of shape, could tip your RV over, whatever. This isn't going to do that in this mode. So be careful about the adjustments you make in this mode. I have already adjusted everything where I need it to be using the manual mode, so I'm perfect. So it says adjust and press set when level, so I don't need to make any adjustments. I'm just gonna press set, and level set is complete. And now when I go back into manual mode, I can see that the center of the digital bubble level there is perfect in the center. So there's an electronic box somewhere underneath the rig, usually in the underbelly somewhere, that is telling the rig what level is where level is. And when you're recalibrating this, you're recalibrating what it's hearing from that as level. So if you're having problems beyond this, if your level is never right, if you calibrate and things keep changing and it's different, or you're having problems ever finding level, often it's that box isn't mounted properly, that a screw has fallen off and it's loose and it's hanging down, something like that. So it's not the same all the time. It's moving as you level the vehicle. So you need to find that and fix that. But now that I've done this, every time I auto level, it should get back to this position. And if I need to make little adjustments down the road, I can easily do that right here. All right, a couple things to chat about before we wrap up. Always make sure your wheels are chocked anytime you run your jacks, anytime you're parked somewhere and you're not hooked up to your truck. We like to use these wheel chocks that go on the front and rear of a wheel in case anything moves around. I know a lot of fifth wheel owners that don't use wheel chocks at all because they think the jacks are sufficient. That is so dangerous, and there have been lots of injuries and deaths, particularly during the unhooking and hooking up process. It's one of the most dangerous things an RVer does, is unhooking a fifth wheel from a truck. Always use wheel chocks on both sides of the rig, even if you're on a completely flat site. If you're on grass or dirt or some sort of soft ground, your level can change. The jacks might sink into the ground a little bit and settle. The gravel underneath them might settle a bit. It might rain, which would cause stuff to move around a bit. It's always best, if you're on a soft surface of any sort, to use a fairly wide block underneath your jacks. I recommend these blocks from Ox Blocks. They're rather expensive, but it gives you a really good, strong, firm, wide base. So to wrap up, always make sure your slides are in when you're auto leveling. Make sure you don't have any X chocks in between your wheels. Make sure you do have real chocks below your wheels. Make sure your stairs are up and make sure pets and children are away. But if you do need to make adjustments, it is okay to make adjustments with the slide out. Again, make sure that your solid step stairs are up and that you don't have any X chocks in your wheels if you do make little micro adjustments. And consider using a level like this from our friends at Franklin Sensors, who were the sponsor of today's episode. This is their light level. Again, it's available at the link in the description. It works horizontally or vertically. It just knows whether you're trying to measure horizontal or vertical level. And it's got bubbles in it, so you don't have to just go by the color change as well. You can actually look at the bubbles and see which direction you have to go in order to get closer to level. But I think this is really, really handy for, again, like mounting to your pin box or to the tongue of your travel trailer, or using on the floor just to have a small level with you wherever you go. Leveling out your picnic table. It's a really handy piece of kit to have in your RV for any sort of small leveling needs like that. Franklin Sensors, again, a link is in the description. And thanks so much to Franklin Sensors for sponsoring this video. And thanks so much to you for being here. If you have other questions about leveling or anything else, leave them in the comments and I will try to answer them, or hopefully some others here in the community will answer them as well. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. If you got something out of this video, hit the like button. If you want more like it, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.